Hello, my Tier 1 people. Dexter Cousins here with a bit of an update. Every week, I'm going to be putting my thoughts together here on the podcast in a newsletter style, discussing a trend I'm seeing from the trenches. This week, I want to talk about fractional exec burnout. Why are talented professionals seeking full-time permanent work again? You hear the pitch all the time. Quit the corporate grind, become a fractional exec, work with multiple clients on your own terms, making premium rates, control your schedule. It sounds like the dream, right? The ultimate work-life balance hack. But there's a quiet exodus happening right now. People aren't living the dream, they're living the nightmare. Talented CFOs, COOs, VPs are quietly accepting permanent positions again. And it's not because they failed, it's because they finally figured out what they actually signed up for. I want to talk about why. Reason number 1, the business owner reality. Here's what gets sold to you. You'll be your own boss. Freedom. But what doesn't get mentioned? You're not just selling your expertise anymore. You're running a company. You have to manage cash flow. You're responsible for taxes, insurance, liability. You're handling all the back-end operations while your clients expect executive-level work. And the financial risk is completely different from employment. You have no health insurance, no paid time off, no super. If you're sick, you lose money. If you take a vacation, you lose money. When researchers looked at freelance consulting practices, they found that overhead expenses typically consume 30 to 50% of the gross revenue. Taxes, insurance, software tools, all of it. Self-employment taxes alone can take up to 45% of what you earn. By the time you account for the business side of things, many fractional execs realize their effective hourly rate is closer to what a junior manager makes than a senior exec should command. And the stress, that never goes away. You're always thinking about the next client, the next revenue gap, the next problem. That wasn't in the brochure. As one client put it to me, it's like you're jumping out of a plane every day without a parachute. Reason number 2, your real job is sales. You became a CFO, a chief of staff, a VP of operations because you're good at that work. That's what excited you about going fractional. But here's what actually happens. Your real job becomes business development. Sales. Successful fractional execs spend 40 to 60% of their time on business development and marketing. You're networking, you're pitching, you're negotiating rates, you're dealing with proposal requests and qualification calls that go nowhere. You're maintaining a pipeline constantly because you have to. This isn't a side hustle, it's now your primary function. And many fractional execs tell the same story. They're doing significantly less of the work they love and way more of the work they deliberately left behind. The irony is painful. You escape the corporate grind to do meaningful work, and now you're grinding at sales instead. Reason number 3, the revenue game. You did the math, and it looked incredible. 3 to 4 clients, commanding 10 to 15,000 a month, looked way better than a 300K salary, until you realized revenue is completely unpredictable. First, clients don't pay on time. Some don't even pay at all. You eat all those losses. And research shows this is endemic. 85% of freelancers worldwide have experienced late payments at least part of the time, with over 20% facing this issue more than half the time. You do substantial work upfront to win a contract. Deep scoping, proposals, strategy calls. Many of these prospects evaporate without committing. That's hundreds of hours of free work across a year. Research into freelance consulting found that consultants typically experience 10 to 30% month-to-month income variance, with payment delays of 30 to 60 days between invoicing. Third, you end up competing on price. Other fractional execs, offshore firms, AI tools, everyone's undercutting each other. The premium positioning that attracted you to the model gets eroded pretty fast. You find yourself chasing cheaper deals just to fill the revenue voids. You're working with worse clients on less interesting problems for less money, and 40% of freelancers face serious cash flow issues because of delayed payments, which means many end up borrowing money, dipping into savings, or delaying important business investments. That's not a business model, that's a trap. Reason 4, quality of life. This was supposed to be a lifestyle change. Work 20 hours a week, pick your clients, build some kind of passive income stream. Go on holiday, work from anywhere. Instead, you're exhausted. You're not sleeping at night, and you're worried about paying the mortgage. You're not doing the executive work, the part that you're trained for, All you're doing is sales, which you hate, plus the business admin that nobody loves. You're grinding on lead generation when you'd rather be strategizing. You're sending invoices and chasing payments instead of building something meaningful. You're doing free work to win business. Your quality of life didn't improve, it plummeted. You got no money because the business side eats everything. You've never worked harder, and you're spending your days doing things you actively dislike. A lot of research backs this up. Studies show that 60% of independent consultants struggle with finding new clients, and more than half say that admin overload cuts into their effectiveness. The anxiety that you always need to be on to keep the pipeline full, that's real. Burnout doesn't arrive as a breakdown. It sneaks in through decision fatigue, social isolation, and the creeping pressure that you can never relax. When compared to a traditional full-time role, even an imperfect one, suddenly permanent employment looks like liberation. Reason number 5, the economic squeeze. There's something else happening in the background that makes this whole fractional exec thing even riskier now. The economy is squeezing households in ways that demand certainty. In Australia, we're living through a sustained cost of living crisis that's leaving households on a knife's edge. Here's the reality. 87% of Australians are actively cutting back on spending right now. Nearly 7 in 10 Australian households are dealing with significant financial stress. When it comes to housing, it's gotten grim. Only 2.7% of rental properties are actually affordable to a 2-parent family earning minimum wage. 1 in 5 renters have already experienced a rent increase, with more expecting one soon. For mortgage holders, it's worse. 30% say they'll struggle to pay their mortgage over the next 3 months. And those fixed rate mortgages that have rolled over to much higher variable rates are really starting to take their toll. And the mental toll is real. 56% of Australians are more stressed about their finances in 2025 than they were in 2024. 15% of Australian households have already gone without basic essentials like food and heating because they ran out of money. Here's the thing, nearly 2/3 of Aussies have picked up a second job just to make ends meet. They're working more, stressed more, and still barely getting by. Only 7% of Australians believe the cost of living crisis has actually improved. So when your household is under this kind of pressure, when you're one client cancellation away from not being able to pay your mortgage, you can't afford to take the fractional gamble anymore. You need the certainty of a full-time paycheck. You need stable income. You need to know that money is coming in every fortnight, every month, no matter what. That's the real economic story for Aussies right now. And it's one of the biggest reasons why talented executives are abandoning the fractional model and going back to permanent employment. In summary, this isn't just about individual burnout stories. We're seeing a broader pattern. Research found that 75% of C-suite professionals are seriously considering leaving their current roles in favor of alternative career paths that better support their well-being. The executives who are going back to full-time roles aren't failures. They're people who realized they were solving the wrong problem. They thought they wanted autonomy and flexibility. What they actually wanted was interesting work, financial stability, reasonable hours, and less stress. A good permanent role delivers on most of that. A fractional practice, for most people, delivers on none of it. The best fractional execs are the ones who stay and thrive, and the ones who have already built a solid book of business. They've figured out how to delegate the sales function, or they genuinely enjoy it. They've scaled to the point where the business actually works, but getting to that point requires 3 years of brutal hustle. Most people burn out before they get there. The ones leaving are the smart ones. They're not running away from a dream that worked. They're running toward a job where they can actually do the work they're trained for, without the financial chaos and emotional toll of trying to build a business on top of it. So if you're thinking about going fractional, do yourself a favor. Go in with your eyes wide open. Understand that you're not buying flexibility, you're buying a business with all the headaches that come with it. The promise is real for some people, but for most, it's a trap dressed up like a dream. And if you're already in it and you're drowning, going back to full-time work isn't failure, it's clarity.